Hello, and welcome to the final video of this series on how to play Lunatic Inquisition in Guild Wars 2. First, I want to make a distinction between what is an exploit and what is a hack. Exploitation capitalizes on lesser-known mechanics, including bugs that exist within a game. A bug is something that is likely an unintended mechanic of a game caused by the coding of the game, leading to strange phenomena. For several examples, there is a link in the video description to a page on the Guild Wars 2 wiki with a list of bugs. Many players are adept at learning how game mechanics work, which helps them play more efficiently. It also helps them identify when a given mechanic in one part of the game is being used in another part of the game, thereby leading to creative methods of playing in a way that is probably not as intended. After all, developers are human. Hacking, meanwhile, is changing the code of the game itself, editing how the data of one's own game files is being used by the game's servers. This allows for otherwise impossible mechanics to exist. Common hacking in many games includes unlimited flying, never losing health despite taking damage, seeing hidden information, and clipping through walls, and so forth. This requires special programs which can read and write to the game's memory. Finally, there are other methods of causing strange effects in a game, such as disconnecting and reconnecting at certain points while some mechanic is being processed, or using a piece of hardware such as a lag switch. However, we will only be looking at the elements of the game that all players have access to simply by being in the game itself, which means dealing with bugs and exploits. I'm making this video for the same reason I've made the other videos. I want everyone to have the same knowledge as anyone else to hopefully both increase the fun most players may have and by balancing the playing field, so to speak. If any developers see these videos and correct the bugs or exploits, that would be good. Ideally, each activity would receive a lot of tender love and care and have continued development, which adds more to these games instead of implementing only limitations. But fixing the exploits will be good regardless. And now, without further ado, here are the bugs and exploits of Lunatic Inquisition. At the end of the game, villagers can fall off of any of the southern ledges of the map immediately after receiving their trick-or-treat bags, which gives them the same reward again. This is similar to another bug that was exploited a few years ago, which I will cover later in the video near the end. The southern ledges are this southwestern area as well as the southeastern area. Both ledges seem to work, and I will demonstrate that shortly. Alright, so above the minimap here we will see my 15 bags appearing for surviving to the end as a villager. As soon as we see that, or 20 bags in this case since I was also the last one alive, and then just fall off the edge and now I have 20 more. Alright, as you know, terrain and structures in the game have collision, preventing movement through them. Sometimes there isn't collision, usually because it's part of the map that is out of the way and doesn't affect any gameplay elements. Sometimes areas that are far out of bounds do have collision. Oftentimes, developers will implement objects such as walls to prevent players from going out of a specific playing area. Players who enjoy exploration, such as solving jumping puzzles, may find gaps in these walls. There are several such places in Lunatic Inquisition where players may jump or otherwise utilize movement-based skills to get around them. Here are a few of the main ones. On the southeast side of the map, you will see this protrusion from the wall. Jumping up this will let you reach the top of the wall. Once you're up here, you are able to freely explore around as long as you don't fall off, and can even reach, by jumping off of here, could reach into another whole area of the map. Alternatively, you can go even farther out of bounds and not just within the inner playing areas by climbing up here, exploring around, and finding many different places to hide. Here in the northeast section of the middle area is the same type of protrusion that you can jump into. As you can see, once again, it allows you to climb the walls that have been placed, or much of the other terrain. And like the other example, you are able to climb up, albeit a little more difficult, with a little more difficulty. But you can climb up onto this branch, and with the aid of some jumping, some speed boost, or perhaps skills by combining exploits, which I will get to later in the video, you might be able to make it over to the other side as well. Also employing something simple like a dodge jump can grant you more distance when jumping. But as you can see, we have the full inner area here to explore at our leisure. Another common spot is over here on the east side of the map, as you can see by the mini-map. You climb up this pile of rocks here, jump into this tree branch, and do another dodge jump to go through. From here you can simply jump around or on top of things, again just treating it sort of like a jumping puzzle, albeit not an official one. So, but from here you can climb up and around, even jumping up to this area, all pretty easily. From here it is possible to jump to that branch and onto that wall, and to go even farther to the north as well. And now here I want to demonstrate that it is very easy and possible for ghosts to jump up here as well. They simply have a slower movement speed, so every bit of distance that a ghost has to travel, a villager can go much farther. So that's something to bear in mind, that even though ghosts can get up here, it's a little unfair still because it takes them considerably longer to travel the same distance as a villager does. But one of the more notable things and why I came back up here is to demonstrate the infinite falling holes. These are holes where you can get stuck for basically the whole game, but the biggest thing is that they're out of reach, of course, of melee, and they're out of reach of even the Mad King says. So even if you could select them, you cannot try to, there's no hope, no chance of you killing a villager that falls down this hole far enough. And as you can see, we can go pretty far down, but we're basically smashed between the terrain here and the invisible wall that is at the very edge of the map. Every map has this sort of wall here that is not perfectly solid, and it'll give this sort of twitching animation and this falling animation as you're pressed up against it. But this is one of the worst places that exists because there's no chance of a ghost even catching up or killing someone here. Alright, another bug that is up here is not necessarily an exploitable one, more like a fun Easter egg. You can spawn Steve in this minigame by traveling out of bounds to this area and dropping down to this other area where he will spawn to deal with intruders. And there he is. You can kill him if I had a gun or a hammer or torch or anything, or as I'm about to get, Ripper. As you can see, it does obscene amounts of damage because the items in this game deal damage based on the maximum hit points of whatever your target has. So you can just sit here and repeatedly kill Steve. It doesn't give you any points. It does nothing at all. It's just something fun to do. Or if you have friends, perhaps you can take a selfie or something of all of you hanging out here with Steve before he murders you all. And finally, I wanted to make a note here. A friend of mine has created a video that is documenting all of the currently known out-of-bounds locations. This includes some that are very easy, such as the ones that I've shown in this video, as well as showing some of the ones that require dedicated practice and focus. You can find a link to her video in the description below once she has published it. This may be up to a year or two from now, but I will include it. Next, we have speed boosts. There are intended speed boosts in this game for villagers consuming food, interacting with a feast, or obtaining the gun. For ghosts, killing villagers grants a stack of negligible swiftness. A villager who is fast enough will outrun even the casting of an MKS skill, or the range on a fierce skill. A ghost who is fast effectively negates the only downside that ghosts have, their slow movement, enabling them to easily catch and kill any villager. The following speed boosts are probably unintended for this minigame, which, for example, clearly lowers the speed of ghosts for the sake of balance and fun. These speed boosts work regardless of whether you're a ghost or a villager, and can only be applied outside of the game except for the bundle. Before the update, which added in novelties and the invisible storage for them, the novelty storage, some novelties were implemented as items which can be used at any time directly from a player's inventory. One such novelty is a bundle called the Sonic Tunneling Tool, which I have here. Using this bundle functions as if a player was wielding another in-game bundle called the Blunderbuss, the secret in-game weapon that is a gun, in that it grants the player an increased movement speed. Using it begins your tunneling effect. Canceling it still leaves you with an increased movement speed, but players can see this as well. Using it again hides that. So now players do not know that you have this increased movement speed. While it doesn't appear to be much, any movement speed that the ghosts have, especially something like the Sonic Tunneling Tool, is enough to be able to catch up to and kill villagers. Players can use the crafting discipline called Scribe to craft a writ of basic speed, a writ of study speed, or a writ of masterful speed. Here I have the writ of basic speed, which grants only a 10% increased movement speed, whereas the others will grant a greater increase. Simply consume it outside of a game, and it will stay on you inside the instance. The Swift Moa Feather is an item historically obtained from an NPC named Tiggs in Lion's Arch. This consumable grants 10% increased movement speed as well, and shows the same particle effect as having the swiftness buff. Whereas, as you can see right now, I do not have it. If I apply this, it will overwrite the writ of basic speed and grant me that particle effect. Consuming other food items and enhancements will work as well, though nothing is as useful in this minigame as health or endurance regeneration consumables or movement speed consumables. You can also use items called primers, such as these metabolic primers that I have, to increase the duration of consumables by several hours instead of the normal 30-minute duration. Alright, so I'm in the game now, and as you can see, I do have that swiftness effect, and the buff Tig swiftness is still being applied. And you can tell that I am considerably faster than I normally am as a ghost. If I was to go after a villager here and they were to try to run away, I will still be able to catch up to them. Neither of us are in combat right now, but I am very slowly gaining on this person. So a ghost, as you can see, greatly benefits from having movement speed increases. A final note on the swiftness consumables is, while I understand that it's a fun element of the game to, be able to run faster, and this is true, no matter what game you're in, It does, of course, provide that unfair advantage against other players in what is essentially a competitive game. Being an imposter. During this pre-game map, while waiting for players, some players are randomly placed on the villager team or the ghost team, starting with the ghost team, as you can see here by my orange icon. Players that are on the ghost team, of course, can interact with these teleport pads. Doing so in the next screen, whenever there's a countdown timer, that goes from 10 seconds, or that starts at 10 seconds. Doing so within the last 1 to 2 seconds left on that timer will spawn you into the beginning of the next actual game as a villager, though you will still be on the ghost team. And this is what it's called to be an imposter. I will demonstrate this whenever I can. Alright, a person has joined, the game is about to begin. If I keep teleporting between these teleport pads, as you can see, I've made it into the next part of it where the countdown timer is. And I just need to click on this at the 1 second left. And now that the match has officially begun, you can see I am, in fact, on the ghost team still, but as a villager, rather than spawning in as a ghost. Being a imposter doesn't really provide any actual gameplay advantage other than you are just as fast as other villagers are because you are a villager character, and therefore you can keep up with them. However, you are unable to pick up hammers, even though you can pick up the other items, and therefore you cannot get the other secret items such as the boulder, the pumpkin, the jack-o'-lantern, or the gun. So you are at a serious disadvantage when it comes to combat. However, since this is a team-based game and a ghost's goal is to kill all of the villagers, you can simply use your villager movement speed to keep up with the other villagers that you're hunting down, and then use something like a bone or a torch to CC the villagers, so that way your ghost teammates can catch up and kill them pretty easily. That is the major unfair advantage of it, but aside from this, there's no real point in being an imposter. Also, if villagers take a hammer or something else, they can pretty easily kill you too. They can also use the items on you as normal. Sometimes players can also spawn in as imposters merely by joining the match due to the timing of when they joined, just by coincidence. It may also be possible to become an imposter by, instead of using the teleport pad, simply falling off of a ledge at the last 1 to 2 seconds of the timer remaining. Not of this timer, but of the other countdown timer. And of course, you would need to be on the ghost team already. As with all bugs, not all players have ill intentions. Some players who willingly become an imposter do so simply for trying something new or playing the game in a different way. Could be amusing or fun for them, just running around aimlessly, causing no harm and not affecting the victory outcome one way or the other. And now for a historical bug. A few years ago, there was a bug which allowed players to receive villager rewards as if they had survived to the end of a match. At the end of a match, if you died, you respawned as a villager and were placed on your original villager team. Dying in the last few seconds means you would respawn after the match is over, but just before receiving the rewards, thereby granting you the villager team rewards. Now, however, when you die at the end of a match, you are placed back on your original team, which is properly assigned at the beginning. You will respawn as a villager, but still on the ghost team, ensuring you get the ghost team rewards. This is what led to the imposter bug being possible. Ultimately, it's good to remove such a bug from the game, so it is no longer exploited, and players don't just end up AFK farming the rewards while wasting active players' time and fun. However, the upside of this bug was that players could still get some kind of compensation despite certain other bugs being exploited by other players, which would otherwise ruin the joy of the game. It is frustrating to know that no matter what you do, you cannot win. Either you cannot survive because the ghosts are too fast, or you cannot kill the villagers because the villagers are too fast and or are too far out of bounds to reach. Worse still is that you get no rewards at the end if you're on the ghost team, while the exploiters do. While socialization and making up your own ways to play the game can still be fun, it made a significant difference to get the rewards by providing players with the hope and knowledge that they could still get something at the end, especially if they weren't alone in doing it. This bug provided that hope and the camaraderie of everyone announcing to everyone else, hey, come join us in middle, and we'll all jump together at the end. As I said, it is ultimately better that an exploit was fixed. However, since the others were not fixed, and arguably those others only have a negative impact on the vast majority of players' experience, it means fewer players desire to learn, let alone keep playing. So here's my hopeful request. It's not to bring back the bug, rather to either eliminate the other exploits that are listed in this video, and or to give at least the normal 5 bags to ghost players at the end of each match, rather than the 0 they normally get whenever they lose. Consider that this could also be implemented until a better solution can be used, such as implementing some kind of mercy for ghosts, or perhaps a restructuring of the reward system itself to prevent exploitative villagers from always winning any match they want. This concludes the bugs and exploits video. Thanks for watching, and have a happy Halloween.